It's Kevi Rempel, and I've lived in been a resident of Kimberley for 25 years. I'm actually reading a written submission by my friend Maureen DeCamp, who's also a resident but couldn't be here tonight. And her words were very similar to mine, so I'm reading the words from both of us. The OCP is an important document that was meant to guide council in future decisions and development. It was a document that explicitly laid out a plan for healthy and economically sustainable community, and hours of thought and considerable amount of money went into its creation. Why would council seek to violate this vision with a fast food restaurant, a service station, and a car wash? I don't mean to ask this question rhetorically, but no information has come forward to the city from council that has provided me with solid evidence about the benefits of this proposal. There is no shortage of information being provided by experts, such as the city planning department, the doctors at the medical clinic, the Ministry of Transportation, and Interior Health, that clearly outline reasons for rejecting this proposal. If there is equally fact-based rationale that supports this proposal, it has not been forthcoming. More explicitly, we have no business impact statement. We have no hard figures about what difference it would really make in our taxes. No hard data on how many full-time living wage jobs would be created. No rebuttal on health and environmental concerns. In conclusion, we would ask members of council to follow the evidence that is on the table and think carefully about the direction they wish to take Kimberley, because the decision will have a significant impact on who we are as a community and may be just as important decision you will make in your term on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Levy. Alistair Lane. Go ahead, Corinne.
Hi there. My name is Corinne Gammon, and I live in Upper Chapman Camp. Most of what I have to say tonight is more opinion-based, because until very recently, I didn't know a lot about the rezoning process. But I've tried to dig in, and here's what I've got. I'm here to state clearly that I am absolutely against the rezoning application for the following reasons. Number one, Kimberley has very little light industrial land that is not contaminated. What we do have hasn't been used to its full potential because it has lacked sewer services. The city has obtained a $1 million grant to start the sewer servicing, and it can finally attract sustainable economic development. There is now an opportunity for businesses like Stoke and Core or other fabrication, automotive, collectives, builders, designers, all of those things. If we give up our industrial land, we're basically closing the door to these innovators. Being on its own highway, Kimberley is a destination and not a town that's meant to be driven through. We need to build on our strengths and not disregard them. We can't be a good place to be or a one-light town or even the best small town in BC if we cater to commercial franchise investment on some of the only industrial land that we have. Retail and commercial businesses supply mostly minimum wage jobs, even if there are 80 of them, which local businesses already can't fill. With our current cost of living, citizens can't meet their basic needs with minimum wage work. The footprint and location of this development involves a style of growth and highway change that is out of step with the aesthetic of Kimberley. A widened highway, traffic lights, street lights, and all for potentially a single franchise business. That seems bananas to me. It makes much more sense from an urban design perspective to keep retail businesses clustered together. Finally, I would like to remind the Mayor and Council, as everyone else has, that you're accountable to us, your constituents, and that we're the taxpayers and you work for us. City staff have written 2 reports that recommend against this rezoning application, and they are your very own in-house experts. Please listen to them and the majority of residents when voting on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Number 10, Chris Bullock. Go ahead, Alistair.
Alistair Lang, and along with my beautiful wife, Jill Bentley Lobin, we own Stoke Market, Stoke Juice, and Fulfill. I'd like to think we're a little bit invested in this community. As a disclaimer, may not be a secret, we do own a gas station, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'd like to focus on Stoke Juice and our challenges. Well, thank you. Our challenges of finding light industrial land. Stoke Juice was founded in 2017 in the back of Stoke Markets. In 2019, we moved into our current home, 215 Mark Street, along with our friends Bohemian Spirits. At that time, we had 5 employees. In 2021, we realized we were running out of space there, and we started the search for our new home. At that time, we had 20 employees. Over the course of the next 18 months, I met with council, I met with the mayor, the planners, to see if there was any available land in the city's repertoire, and was told that there was the benchlands. Well, it didn't take long to find out that that land is contaminated and unavailable to actually be used. With a lot of hard work, I title searched almost every vacant land in Kimberley that was zone light industry. I got a lot of nothingness. I even talked to Jack Carter all the way in Calgary, and he told me he didn't need my money. But thanks to Tyee, we're able to buy some land. We're kind of a lucky story. We're gonna keep our business here. Today we have 35 employees, and almost all of them make more than minimum wage by quite a margin. We bring money. Every day we bring money into the community. We provide jobs, those jobs provide taxes for the city. They spend money here. We sell juice all over Western Canada, and that brings value to our community. We're only gonna scale and grow. We think we're gonna double or triple as we move into our new home. But that's not about me. The point is that there's gonna be another Stoke, there's gonna be another entrepreneur, and they might not be able to stay here because this land is being rezoned. And if it starts with this one, it's the next thing down the line, because now everybody wants to be on the frontage. So there's very limited light industrial land. The OCP clearly states that it is what it is, and it should stay what it is. And so I encourage you, councillors and mayor, to stick to your plan and let this town grow in the next 10 years, not just this next coming year. Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. Joel Martins.
Great.
Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to talk tonight. I'm Chris Bullock. I'm a local resident and a practicing environmental engineer. I'm the one who nerded out on some property taxes, and I sent a letter to the council when I realized it was too long and too boring to present in 3 minutes here. I hope you do take the time to review that letter. I believe that it raises some new points that probably haven't been raised in discussion. My evaluation of the tax is suggests that this proposed development is not going to be the savior for reducing everyone's property taxes in this room. In fact, I believe it shows the opposite. The basis of my assessment was looking at how much tax are you generating per square meter of area. And as Mayor McCormick has articulated very well, most of our taxes are coming from residential properties, which in the older neighborhoods is around $5 a square meter, and in the newer housing, it may be $8 a square meter, and I think that should be the benchmark you'd like to see on this land. Based on what I did review other areas of town, and I'm really doubtful that we're gonna be able to see that kind of tax revenue from this property with this particular development. I did also look at the loading of this, because I'm an environmental engineer, of this restaurant on the sewage system that we're looking at building. And I suspect this is going to be equivalent to about 25 houses in terms of how much loading it is, which is of another 55 residents it would be displacing. So our new $90 million facility that's only going to add an extra 500 people's capacity, we're going to use 55 of those 500 spots by having this kind of a restaurant. I also was thinking about the traffic considerations. I understand this particular auto-centric development is going to require a massive change to the way this traffic flows through Marysville. And having a traffic light there, I suspect, is going to back up traffic probably back to the bridge in Mark Creek in the mornings and pretty much shut down Marysville for local traffic use in the morning rush. And I also think it might back traffic up outside the city limits in the evenings, and there's a big risk of rear-enders that could occur when you get to that level. Also, as a cyclist, I realize that the fumes and the exhaust are heavily exacerbated when you have a stop and then a start, and all these idling cars, and the acceleration from a traffic light is going to be drastically different from just smooth flowing traffic that we're seeing right now. So I do think this development is going to impact everybody in Kimberley, whether they like to use the particular development or not. It's the only way in and out of Kimberley, essentially, for a lot of people. So. Anyway.
Thank you, Chris. Bruce Murdoch. Go ahead, Joel.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just want to state that I'm opposed to the redevelopments on these lands. Some of the arguments have already been made about the industrial land base, so I'm not going to repeat those, although I have submitted a letter with more details. One of the key things I think here is that really, when we look at this proposal, what it's doing is encouraging land speculation, and that is something that should be on all of your radar as City Council, because that is something that is, of course, a negative economic effect. When we look at the economic land and the industrial land base in that area, of course, if it can be rezoned into a commercial application, why wouldn't I hold on to that and put it there? It's going to be displacing future businesses from an industrial standpoint, as we've heard already. So it's not just this development. Really, by looking at it, you've acknowledged that this isn't a single one-off development. You've created a completely new rezoning type for this type of development. It is going to encourage further redevelopment in this area. So it's not simply, let's look at this one parcel or two parcels. It's really looking at that entire highway stretch. When we look at that, that has a much larger effect on the industrial land base and the economic prosperity in our future. I think the inconsistencies with the official community plan and the active transportation network plan are also worth noting and mentioning. I think specifically with the zoning that is proposed, making it a requirement that the restaurants have a drive-through is just simply not in alignment with anything we stand for as a community. Optional, sure, but to make it a requirement is frankly absurd, and I can't even believe that was put on paper. And lastly, I think really, we haven't heard a lot about the economics. There are a lot of questions about the economics. I want to say I am relatively confident that the economic benefits of this redevelopment are overstated. It doesn't matter how many jobs these are creating because there isn't a job base to take advantage of that. We have vacancies in this type of job, so who's going to fill those jobs? Are we getting temporary foreign workers? Where are these jobs going to be filled from? How is that money staying in our community? BC Buy Local has done some analysis on what the impact is of local business versus multinational corporations, and for every $100 that move from restaurants in local restaurants to a corporation like McDonald's, we lose $50. So for every $100 that was spent, we lose $50 in economic benefit. So how much extra do we think is going to be attracted to spending at this new McDonald's? It is not a destination. It is in the middle of nowhere. Even if you're coming from Invermere, it will be quicker to drive to the McDonald's in Cranbrook than it is to drive to the McDonald's in Kimberley. So the only reason that you would come to this McDonald's is because you want to come to Kimberley. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Paul Willis. Go ahead, Bruce.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Bruce Murdoch. My property is on 969-313 Drive, which is very close to the subject property that we're talking about tonight. And our plan on that property has been to develop a multi-family affordable housing project that is quite severely needed in this town. And but when I found out that the proposal of the CS1 bylaw would include a gas station, I became quite alarmed because I'm aware of the air quality aspect. And so I'm just going to stick with that tonight. Everybody's covering the other issues very well. I want to just narrow it down to air quality and to do with the basically with the setbacks that are allowed for on CS1. So the background is that fuel storage and dispensing units operations, they emit toxic carcinogenic fumes. mainly benzene. So benzene can be detected up to 900 meters away from a gas station. And it's dangerous within 100 meters. And Health Canada has established within 100 meters there's a fairly high risk of cancer, leukemia. And up to 400 meters it's still detectable as a danger. So it gets worse in Marysville because Marysville is in a topographical bowl, and so you get inversions there and air quality drops. So things like benzene hangs in the air longer there. The other thing is we have a school nearby, and children are affected doubly by benzene in the air because of their size of their bodies and their activity. They're breathing in more quickly. So it's very, very close to this gas station here, and so we're very, very concerned about how to mitigate that. And Health Canada has two ways to mitigate that they're suggesting. One is there is equipment that can mitigate it to some degree, but the problem is that it's not regulated in BC, some of this equipment, and the city bylaw department really isn't set up to deal with that here because it's quite a complex thing. So the only tool that Health Canada suggests to use is setbacks. And so setbacks, we need to look seriously at that. Right now it's a minimum 3 meter setback. You can actually have a house right beside a gas station with this law, with this bylaw. So what we need is, we really need a 300 meter setback for gas stations, and that should be right across the city, wherever gas stations are allowed. So that is what would reduce the risk down to about 1 in 700,000 perhaps, with a 300 meter setback. So I'd like to see that change. CS1 7.11A siting to be changed to a 300 meter setback from residential schools.
Thank you, Bruce. Mika Little. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to the struggles of Marysville with the inability to disperse airborne pollutants. I'm going to sort of piggyback on what Bruce said. He did a good job with the health risk. I'm going to talk about the challenge in general terms of air quality. One of my last gigs with the Ministry of Environment was to design a mobile air sampling program between the Cranbrook airsheds and the Kimberley airsheds. So it's nice that we can see reported levels in Cranbrook on what the air quality is, but we're all interested in what's happening in our neighborhood. So among the results of the study was that Marysville was a relative hotspot. The study's findings, by the way, were published in a scientific journal. I can get you access to the piece if you want. So if advisories were issued on a neighborhood basis, Marysville would have more air quality advisories than even Kimberley proper. So why is this? This is a story of the ocean of air versus a bathtub of air. In the winter months, we're met with the temperature inversions that inhibit the upward dissipation of pollutants into the ocean of air, where we send them, let's say Ottawa with our love. But worse yet, for Marysville, like Bruce had said, we can consider this area as a bowl. We have mountains to the west, we have ridges to the north, valley ridges to the north and south, we have a hill to the east. Residents are not only breathing the pollutants of their own making, but they're also breathing pollutants that are being descended from Kimberley at higher elevations. So think of a bathtub with filthy water and the water has nowhere to go. My point is not for Marysville residents to panic and move away, because over the course of a term we have very good air quality. You will likely find somewhere that has poor air quality, but my concern is these episodes in the wintertime, and of course fires begin the wild card now. Pollutants in a bowl are challenged to disperse. Now, gas stations have toxic spills. This is going to be a challenge to overcome in a bowl like Marysville. In the case of a gas station, we have, like Bruce said, benzene. Benzene is very hard to flush from an airshed. So there'd be increase in idling cars if a drive-through is allowed. There would be increase in vehicle emissions where the traffic light was established. The tailpipe emissions include particulate matter as well as nitrogen dioxides that could create ground level ozone. So my final word is be very cautious. This is my air quality advisory to be very cautious of allowing emissions into an air shed
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate the
that
comments.
has pre-existing conditions.
Brandon Hughes. Go ahead, Mika.
Hi, my name is Mika Little, and I moved here a year and a half ago. The Kimberly I fell in love with has a quirky platzel, and the people that work there are fabulous. And I am a little bit scared about adding in a McDonald's. I don't believe in the economic benefits that have been stated. I think that they're pretty well copy and pasted from an economics textbook. They don't seem like they're thinking about the small businesses. So speaking about first impressions, as you can tell, I'm a little bit nervous. I don't do a whole lot of public speaking. But I think that when people come into Kimberly, are we going to want to show them a McDonald's right at the front? Is that not, I don't want to say vibe that we're going for, but what is it saying about us? I also think that it's redundant. We have so many gas stations, and we have many small, hardworking local business owners. I think that as well, in business, I believe in competition. I think that there should be healthy competition within markets. However, I don't think McDonald's and another big named gas station is necessarily fair. I think that it is, I don't think it's fair. I think it's a bit of a slap in the face to the local business owners who have already been struggling with COVID and with the ski hill burning. And I don't think it's a good idea to rezone. Also, competing against McDonald's is not fair because local businesses cannot afford to pay higher wages as maybe McDonald's could. Restaurants can barely find workers. There seem to be bigger problems maybe in Kimberly, like finding housing that might strike a chord with some people. And I think that on the note of ingenuity, the rezoning issue to bring this commercial business in is heavily lacking. It's easy to name local commercial and service businesses that run off the hard work of their owners. And allowing big business a front seat in Kimberly seems like an insult to them. And I support the local small businesses in Kimberly, and I hope that you do too.
Thank you, Mika. Sydney Pavlova. Go ahead, Brandon.
Thanks. My name is Brandon Hughes. I'm sorry I got my back to you. I'm here with my wife, Sydney, who's speaking after me, which is good because if I forget something, she will cover that territory. We've lived on Church Avenue at 520 for 5 years. We love the place. I'd like to thank the mayor and council members, some of whom have shared their time with Sid and I to discuss this issue. Appreciate your time. I spent 30 years with the federal government, came out alive. Most of that career was devoted to and focused on rural communities, which I visited in every part of the province. And my job was to find out what was going on in rural communities so that the federal government and provincial government and other government funders, other non-governmental funders could better understand the needs that are out there. And so I went to rural communities, I went to planning meetings, I went to organize conferences to bring people together from rural communities. And then that information I took back to Victoria and Vancouver to talk to people there at the federal